Hey everyone, Will here, and if you saw my video last week, you saw that I had a lot of new backpacking gear that I've picked up this last spring, and I am absolutely dying to get out and use it. But like you guys all know, we are all on lockdowns of various degrees, and just trying to muscle through these shutdowns while we wait for this virus to curve over and hopefully descend very soon. I was hoping to get out on my first real backpacking trip in a couple weeks, but at the moment it doesn't look like that's going to be happening. In the meantime, I still got two new pieces of gear that I did not show off in my last video because they are not specifically backpacking gear items, but they are cameras that I will be using on most of my backpacking trips for the foreseeable future. Now, I shot that segment last week, but left it out for this week. So here is that segment. I've got two more upgrades to show. While they are not specific backpacking gear items, they are very much upgrades for my backpacking trips because, as you guys know, I love to shoot video and shoot photos and do a little bit of photography as well as video for trip videos to share with you guys here on YouTube. So the first big upgrade with my photography and videography equipment is my GoPro. This is my GoPro 6. Not much to be said about it other, it's been good, it's been fine, still very much a good action camera. But as some of you guys know, they have the GoPro, not just the 7 but the 8 out now since I got my 6, and the GoPro 8 is famed now for its improved stabilization. It's got a feature called Hyper Smooth, and it's actually something that came out with the 7, but now they're in the Hyper Smooth 2.0, so it's even improved stabilization from the 7. The 7 was a huge upgrade in stabilization from the 6, and then an even more modest upgrade from the 7 to the 8, and I am really excited to have that because stabilization just makes video so much smoother when you're on rocky, rugged trails trying to narrate a video or just shoot some action shots of you in motion while carrying the camera. It definitely displaces any need for rigging up any kind of gimbal or stabilizer. So very impressive what GoPro has done with their software to make that possible. And also its hyperlapse feature is something that the 6 does not have. And that just makes really cool, fun time lapses possible that you can manually control on the go, speeding, like time ramping it from regular speed to fast as you go. Something you cannot do here. You can shoot basic time lapses with the 6, but hyperlapse gives you just a whole nother dimension of creativity with time lapses. So really excited to have the 8. Same weight, no difference there. So that's really the key reasons why I upgraded to this. Now, I did not trade this in for this one because I had an old camera that I had not used for years, and it was a 720 HD video camera, a little handheld handycam style camera. I mailed that in for my discount that gave me $100 off the GoPro 8 here. Moving on to my final camera upgrade here. For the last few years, I've been using the Sony CyberShot. It's a Sony HX80, and this is the camera I've been using for most of the photography or still photos I've been shooting, and a little bit of video as well for a lot of my videos that I've done. And it's really nice in that it's got a 30x zoom lens on it, a 30x zoom lens. And so it's really great for closing in on some wildlife and things like that. And it's just a really lightweight, compact point and shoot camera. And it's got a lot of nice little manual options with it as well. but it doesn't shoot RAW, which is okay. I'm not a huge RAW photo editor yet anyways, but I'm more just, I want something lightweight, I can point and shoot, but also when I want to take the time to set up some manual settings for select photos, I want to have that ability to do that, and this camera gave that to me. But I also want to expand some of my abilities with some of my still photography without going all the way up to like a mirrorless or a DSLR package that requires extra lenses to come along, and expensive lenses usually, and just a lot more liability or a lot more expensive gear to look after and protect, and also usually extra weight. So I kind of want to keep my camera equipment on the down low, a little bit lighter weight, and a little bit more compact, more packable. So I have been looking at the RX100 line from Sony, and I settled on a Sony RX100 version 4. This is a little bit older. They're up to a version 7 now. I determined I wanted to stay within a version 3 to a version 5 because those versions allow you to download some apps on here to allow you to do time-lapse photos with it, along with apps to do a lot of other cool features and effects with. But also, because these cameras have a 1.8 lens, they forfeited the 1.8 wide lens when they went to the version 6 and 7 for a little bit more greater reach in telephoto ability that people were wanting. So there's some more demand for zoom lens, but I wanted the wide lens, can take some some starry Milky Way photos. Yeah, that 1.8 lens, it's still not as good as a 1.8 lens on like a mirrorless or a DSLR package, but from what I've seen of this camera, you can take some pretty cool night sky photos with the lens on this camera. And again, with the app that does time lapse, you can do some Milky Way time lapses out in the remote backcountry areas we have all throughout Utah and the west out here. You can get some really dark skies, and I think this camera will thrive really well in those conditions. So I am excited to be able to take some Milky Way, capture a bit of Milky Way and some still photos, as well as capture some Milky Way time lapses and do a lot of nighttime photography with this. Another feature this camera has that I don't have with my other one is it's got a built-in ND filter on it that should allow me more leeway and brighter conditions to shoot some waterfalls and streams and get that motion blur effect with the longer exposures. And if that's not enough, it's got a little lens mate adapter here that lets me add additional ND filters on here, or a polarizer filter, a UV filter. Will screw on just like that. The camera did not come with that adapter standard. LensMate is another little company that sells adapters that can be installed. The guy I bought this camera from had already installed the LensMate to it. So yeah, I can now add additional filters to it. And that really stretches the ability of it. It shoots RAW, and I could go on and on with this camera. The big thing I forfeit though is the zoom. In order for that wider lens to work on here, they could not put the extra zoom on here. So I am forfeiting a 30 times zoom, dropping down to about a 3 to 4 times zoom with a little bit more electronic zoom before it really gets blurry and pixelated. Hey guys, those are my two new cameras, GoPro 8 and the Sony RX100 Model 4 or Mark 4. Excited to be able to improve the diversity and quality of some of my videos and photographs for my blog. So I am itching just as bad to get out and backpack with my other gear as I am to be able to start really working with the cameras out in the backcountry and seeing what kind of photos I can take for my trip reports, my blog posts, and what kind of video I can capture between the two cameras to be able to share with you guys on the channel here. What I think I'm going to do in a week or two is do a backyard backpacking trip. Bring out any of my kids who want to join along, but we're going to go hunt down some beauty and the small details in the backyard in the next week or two, and that might have to be my first backpacking trip of the year, and that just might be the kind of trip I have to do to test out these new cameras and to get my gear fixed with a lot of the new backpacking gear. So anyways guys, please subscribe and follow along for more videos like this, and you know, fingers crossed we'll get through this virus stuff together, guys.